Hey, it's Larry Lursey. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at TopazLab's Mask AI. And what this does, as the name implies, is it's a software that specializes in helping you mask your subjects if you want to take somebody and put them on a different background. We will take a look, see how it works, maybe give you some tips on how to use it. If you'd like to follow along, there is a link in the comments that you can download a trial and follow along with us. So let's go ahead and jump right into the software. Roll the intro. Okay, here we are in Photoshop, and I've got a few different images for us to try out in this software. This one's going to be pretty straightforward. Got the model on just a plain gray seamless, so this should be relatively easy to extract, but it'll kind of give us a chance to check out how the controls work on the software. This one's going to be significantly more difficult with these curls and this different background, so we'll give that one a try. And I've even got a kind of just a vacation picture with the blah overcast sky that we'll see how easy it is to mask that one as well. So let's jump in and start out with this one right here and take a look at Mask AI. So I'm going to come on up here to Filter, Topaz Labs, Mask AI. Alright, so here we are in Mask AI, and let's take a look at the interface real quick. We've got a few different shortcuts up here. We've got Select Subject, Select Sky, which are kind of the easy ways to get close to what you need. But we're mostly going to be working with this brush and the bucket here. And these are going to be the main tools we're going to be using. You've got some preview options up here, how you want to look at it, as far as filling the screen or enlarging it, things like that. And then over here we've got some tools that will allow us to fine-tune the mask once we get it in place. So let's take a look first at this brush, and if we click here, it gives us three options, and basically Topaz has what they call a tri-map, where there's three different colors: blue, green, and red. And basically green means you're going to keep it, red means you're getting rid of it, and blue is the transition. So what you're going to do in most images, well, certainly you've got the option of just coming up and hitting subject. But before we try that on this one, let's just do it manually, just so you can get a feel for how things work here. So we're going to start with blue, and it's going to give us this brush. We can make it bigger or smaller using the bracket keys. Now there's going to be a bit of a trade-off here, like there is in most things, where the bigger the brush you have, the faster it's going to be to go through and make this selection. The smaller, more accurate brush you have, the better results you're going to get. And so you're kind of got to find a middle area for when you make this selection, because what we're going to do is basically define the area between what we want to keep and what we want to get rid of. In this case, it's this line coming right down through here, and the line basically where she meets the background. So by getting in a little bit closer, let's zoom in a tiny bit, we can be a little more detailed with our brush, and that'll give us better results. Like I said, it's going to take a little longer to do, but generally you're going to get better results. So we're kind of somewhere in between. We could go really small like that, but let's go about this size here. And again, I'm trying to basically split the difference here between her skin and the background, just so that Topaz knows to look on both sides. While I'm down here, I'll just go ahead and do this little pocket where we can see through to the background. And it's one of those things that the more accurate you are, the more slowly you go through and do this, the better your results are going to be. But it can get kind of tedious. But this is kind of the slower way of doing it, so don't worry too much. I'm going to keep just jumping back and forth on different sides. Come down through here, and we're just again telling Topaz here is the transition area. This is the part you got to worry about. Okay, so we've pretty much highlighted out this whole area. Let's fit her on the screen. And we've basically said that we want to keep this inside. It's already green. So now we're going to switch to our bucket. Again, red's what we want to get rid of. So we could just take a red brush and color all out this whole outside area out here. But that's kind of the slow way of doing it we would just grab this bucket and say fill this whole area, and it won't cross over this blue. So we can just click out there, get the whole area, click in here. Now we've pretty much told Topaz we don't want any of this red. Green's what we want, blue is the questionable area. So once we've done that, we just come over here and we hit Compute Mask. Okay, so here's what it has given us. We've got over here this try map where we can see what we've told Topaz what to do, and then over here is the results. Now you'll notice it gives it to us on this checkerboard, and I always have a hard time telling from the checkerboard what I'm dealing with. So let's jump over here to this panel real quick and let me show you a few other options. First thing I want to do is go to this background. And you can either drop in an image, which is great. If you knew what image you were trying to drop her into, you can go right here, add that image, and then you would know exactly how she looked on that image and what areas were trouble images. But because we don't know what image we're going to use her with, we're just going to drop her onto some sort of a colored background, maybe just a green, just something that shows us this background a little bit better. So hit OK. And so those are your basic options on that background. Let's go back to refine. And we've got some fine-tuning type dials here that we will run through here. And I want to show you down here a couple of other options. So you'll see in the mask mode, you've got AI, translucent, and contrast. Contrast is just kind of your basic. It's using contrast levels to determine where those transition areas are. Translucent is more specialized for when you're dealing with things like a bride's veil where it's supposed to be see-through. And so you want some of that veil to be there, but still some sort of transparent quality to it is when you'd use translucent. I use AI the vast majority of the time. Unless it's a bride's veil, I'm going to be using AI because I think it's the best one. Auto Update Mask is for if you decide you're going to come back and do some more work on this mask. If auto update is on, let me show you here. Let me switch back to the blue brush. Let's decide that we want to tweak our blue outline a little bit. And so we add a little bit. Every time I lift this brush, it's going to start processing, and I'm going to have to wait for it to process, which depending on your computer can be anywhere from, you know, I don't know, 10 seconds or so up to maybe a minute, depending on how fast or slow your computer is. So you wouldn't want to be doing something where you were coming through here. Let's say we were trying to paint in a little more green, and every time I lift the pen, it's processing, and so you don't want to do that. So you would want to turn off this auto update mask in that situation. So that's what basically this panel's doing down here. So let's look at what we've ended up with over here. And I'm going to zoom in a tiny bit up here. And I feel like we look pretty good through these sections here. These are the easier sections, of course. Not really expecting too much trouble there. Not crazy about up here, and we've definitely got a problem here where it's coming into the hair. So let's take a look at that first. And we come over here to the mask, and what we would probably try and do first is switch back to this blue and just highlight that area a little bit and see if that fixes it. A little bit, not great. Let's switch to the green and try and get a little closer over here to where that line is, and let's just be a little more accurate as we're defining this is hair. We want to keep this maybe right up more to that edge like that. See how that does. That did much better over there. And we could do the same thing along here. And this is what we're kind of talking about. To get a real good extraction, or rather a really good mask, you're going to have to spend a little bit of time doing this type of stuff. But again, it's not too labor intensive. I mean, as much time as we're taking here, it's really not a terrible amount of time to get a nice mask for something like this. Okay, so we're pretty close there. Let's take a look at some of these sliders, and if you've watched any other videos, you know what I love to do is just kind of take them to the extreme so you can kind of see with this hard edge. If we take it all the way to the end, you see what it does. Take it all the way this way. Definitely softens. I think I like a little more of an edge there. Do the same thing with the strength. all the way. Just going to make it look a little crackly along the edge. Bring back that way. That's too soft. So I think you're going to try and find something in the middle. And I think that's pretty good. The edge shift is kind of nice for, especially if you're worried about getting some sort of a color bleed from the background onto the model. You can use that shift back and forth. And we've got our defringe here, which we don't have too much problem with that in this image. So I think we're kind of okay. But we've made all of our moves here until we've gotten pretty good. Still got a little bit of green peeking through here, which we could come back over here and work on a little bit more if we wanted to. But for the sake of the tutorial, I think we're pretty close here. Let's go ahead and we could hit apply and drop back into the software. But let's drop back, let's hit cancel. Okay, so there I hit cancel and I just reopened the same image in mask just so we could start over fresh, because I want to show you how this subject works in contrast to how we just did everything there manually. We come up here with an image like this, we go ahead and hit auto detect subject, click right there, and really quickly, much quicker than you saw we went through and selected it, it's gone through and done this for us. Now if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see that it's not perfect. For right here, this transition line is pretty much out in space as opposed to on the neck. And we've definitely got a problem down here where you can see that that hand is not really going to be looking quite right. But you know what we may do is go ahead and just hit compute mask, and we'll take a look at it and see what it looks like, and it's probably going to give us a little bit of ghosting down here on this wrist. Yeah, and you can see here it's looking for the transition in the wrong place. So we got kind of a bad selection on that one. So what you would want to do is, let's go ahead and hit reset. Back to this area. We'll do select subject again. And then what I would say we do is, let's zoom in a little bit and let's go through and clean up some of these ourselves real quick. So we'll switch to the blue brush. We know there's going to be a problem down here. So we'll go ahead and we're going to kind of do a mix this time. So we're going to let Topaz do the initial detection of where these edges are. And then we're going to come back and define it a little bit more accurately ourselves. Make sure we've got everything. I think we had a problem area up here on the neck. Let's make sure we got that in blue. Alright, and then what we'll probably want to do is come back on the green side, define a little more of this area, just so we don't have such a big decision area with the blue for Topaz to have to think through. And then we'll switch to the red and get rid of some of this extra background, because I think the more we can lead Topaz down the path that we want it to go, the better results we're going to get. And it just takes a few seconds to go through and fine-tune this a little bit. I'll probably come in here just a little bit as well. I think this is going to get us pretty close. Let's see if we got maybe a little bit over here. I think we're alright. I'm going to add a little more here just so we know we got it. Alright, let's give that a try and see what that does. So let's go ahead and compute mask. Let's hit fit so we can get her all on the screen. Let's go back and add our background again. We'll just go with that green. That seemed to work fine last time. And let's zoom in a little more. We've definitely fixed that. A little bit of fringe problem along here where it's not quite giving us a clean mask. But as you can see, it's pretty close. Could probably clean that up a touch as well. And like I said, it's just going to be a matter of bouncing back and forth with making adjustments on this side and getting them cleaned up here. But we got pretty close there. Depending on what we were dropping her into, I think it would probably be just fine. And So once we have it how we like it, once you go back, do all these extra edits till you get those edges exactly how you want them, then you're going to go ahead and hit apply, and I'll just show you how that works. It's going to give you the option of either doing it transparent or composite. If we do composite, it's going to come in just like this. It's going to be her on green, and as if that's all one layer. We're going to do transparent so that we've got her separate. So we'll click on that little transparent apple, and as you can see here, it's given us the masked version of her on top and then our regular images on the bottom. Now, I wish that it exported it as the image with a mask on it instead of going ahead and throwing away all those pixels, because that's kind of the best part for me of having a mask, is that you've got those pixels that you can go back and add or subtract if you need them. And so I don't know that this is probably the most efficient way of doing that. It's great for if you're trying to do a lot of images or do them quickly and you don't have to have a perfect extraction, because the problem we have here is if we decide that it's taken away too much hair, it's going to be difficult for us to bring that hair back. There's ways we can do it, but it's not going to be as straightforward as if that was just a mask. I think in the standalone version, when you use this as a standalone, it might be able to put it into some sort of a mask, or at least export a mask. But as far as the plugin goes, it's going to send it out like this. Now, if there's a way of doing it with a mask, maybe I just haven't figured it out, and if you know that, then hopefully someone will leave that in the comments. And maybe that's something that they will add at some point, because I think it would be a great feature to be able to actually have the mask instead of going ahead and cutting it out. We do have her cut out and ready to go, so we could drop her onto whatever background we wanted, and you'd be pretty good to go. So let's take a look at a little more difficult one now with this image. And you can see we've got the curls here. This might be a time that we can try playing around with that transparent mode and see if we can get this guy extracted off of this background, which is going to be a lot more difficult, but let's give it a shot. So go right back up here to Filter, Topaz Mask AI. All right, here we are in our green. We can try the subject auto detect as a starting point, and it's not terrible, but you know, it's funny. I feel like I'm just going to start over again. I feel like you kind of get better results when you just do it yourself in most cases, especially if it's a complicated one like this. So I'm just going to switch to blue, and let's get a little bigger. And I'm going to go through and, oh, we've already got it all blue. We need to go ahead and make the whole thing green. Switch back to our blue brush. It's all these areas, which will be the interesting part to see if Topaz can pick this out. This will be a good challenge for them. All right, keep that up here. And again, we could do a more detailed highlighting through here with a smaller brush, but for the sake of this tutorial, so you're not sitting here watching me for 2 hours, I'm gonna do it with a little bigger brush like this, but I think this should get us pretty close to what we need. Let's bring this on down. All right. So we've made the outline. We're going to red the outside. So we don't want that. We want the green. Don't want the red. Blue is the question mark. So let's take a look and compute this mask and take a look and see what it does. All right. And you know, it's not terrible. It's done actually a pretty nice job through here. I probably didn't make this part blue enough to give us that translucent thing, but we'll go ahead and try and fix that right now. So I'm going to switch back to the blue brush. I'm going to switch to translucent, and I'm just going to go over these areas. And you can do it on this side. You can see it's doing it on the other side for us. I'm going to do that. Maybe a little more in here. I'm going to recompute the mask. It actually looks pretty nice. Let's throw him onto a background. I'll show you how the image works. We'll load an image up. All right, I just dropped in these trees back here. We're going to need to transform this background because it's going to make me a little crazy. We need to flip it horizontal so that we get the light coming from the same side on him. Looks a little more realistic. we would need to stretch this out so it fits back to refine. Give us a little more idea what it would look like having him in some sort of a background. We probably wouldn't use this one, especially with him leaning against nothing, but just to kind of see how things look. The edges look really nice through here. It did a good job of pulling him off of that brick, even with the red shirt. Zoom in a tiny bit. And really the hair looks pretty nice too, considering we got these curls. You do have some areas here that are still looking a little gray. Again, I don't know that you'd notice as much in this scenario, but just for grins, I'm going to make one more pass at this area over here. Let's see if I can get this a little more to show up. Let's let it process. And that's pretty good. I think that is, we probably would need to tidy up this hair a little bit in Photoshop anyways, because it's a little crazy. But for what it's doing, I think it's not terrible, that extraction up there. We definitely look good here. I think this could easily be cleaned up once we get back into Photoshop, but the rest of it actually looks pretty good. Go ahead and hit apply. Let's leave it transparent. And then let's just go ahead and really quickly look at this travel shot here where we've got just the blah overcast sky that's just kind of gone pure white, and we will go back into the software. This time we're going to try the sky, the auto detect sky. So we'll hit this, and you can see here it's done our transitions all through here. I can already see a few little problems. It didn't come down far enough here. It didn't come down far enough here, which we can go ahead, bring our brush down a little bit, and go ahead and just fix these right now. Can't tell if that's something or not. Let's switch to the green, and I think we can be a little more up here. That's pretty good. All right, pretty close right there. We've got that. We'll hit Compute Mask. And there you go. Let's get in a little closer. And I think we've done a pretty good job. We're selected all along here. It's done okay with these trees. We can even, just for grins, toss some clouds in here. And you can see it's done a pretty good job. Certainly this part looks fine, as we're kind of expecting. The transition here where it meets the trees works okay. Probably could clean up that area a little bit. It looks like we've got a little something down here probably that got missed that would need to be masked back, but not too bad overall. And I think it does show that it's getting you in the ballpark for your at least a basic type of mask. We'll go ahead and hit apply here, leave it transparent, and then here we go. It has left us with this sky extracted where we can bring in our own sky however we want. Now again, like we talked about when we were outlining that image, anytime you use just the select sky, it's never going to do as good of a job as if you just go through manually with a small brush and highlight those transition areas. But like I said, if you're trying to either, maybe you just really don't want to do any masking, or you just need kind of a rough mask to get an idea of what a different sky would look like in a scene and things like that, that auto feature is going to get you really close most of the time. And like I said, overall it gives you pretty good results. I would again love it if there was a way that this was on a mask instead of all just cut out like that, but by and large I think it's giving us a really nice result for the amount of time that it's taking. And so from that standpoint, I think it works nicely. So there you go. It does a pretty good job of getting an overall mask and does it pretty quickly. Masking is one of those things in Photoshop that you're really going to have to have that trade-off of the amount of time and effort you put into it versus the quality you're going to get back. And to get a really good mask, especially in a complicated situation, it's going to take a little bit of time going back and forth, and there's not going to be any really one-click easy solution. I do think this will get you in the ballpark pretty quickly, especially if you're not too familiar with masking. If you'd like to give it a try and purchase the software, make sure you use the discount code LarryPhoto, and that'll get you a discount on the price, so you can save a little money there. If you haven't had a chance to do so yet, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the little bell so that you know when new content comes out. That's all we have for this week, but I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.